Hey, thanks for tuning in. In this video, we're going to talk about meat sacrificed to idols. The issue of meat sacrificed to idols may not seem especially relevant to us today, even considering the society that surrounds us. Even despite all of the issues with that society, we would probably have to kind of go out of our way if we were looking for meat sacrificed to idols. Now, there are some situations where, for example, we might be going and looking for something that is likely to not be contaminated with pork, for example. So we may think that, well, there's this other belief system that's kind of similar, at least in regard to some of the food things. And so maybe we'll go to one of those butchers that observes that instead, and maybe they'll have something that's a better option for us. The thing is that many times in that belief system, they actually have to do a ritual slaughter, effectively a sacrifice of the animal in order for it to be considered fit according to their beliefs. So that may actually be a situation where it does become a problem. But the greater point regarding this meat sacrifice to idols relates to other teachings that go around and that some people claim must be in line with the Torah. I want to bring our attention to Exodus 34. In Exodus 34, commands are given regarding the Canaanites, and it says that we are not to make any kind of covenant with the Canaanites whenever we enter into the land of Canaan, that no association, no peaceful association is supposed to be made with the Canaanite people. And in Exodus 34:15 it says, "Lest you shall cut covenant to one dwelling of the land, and they shall prostitute after their Elohim, and they shall slaughter to their Elohim, and he shall call to you, and you shall eat from his slaughter." So in this verse, we see reference to the cutting of a covenant with the Canaanites, something that is not supposed to be done. And it says that if that is done, they are, of course, going to continue serving their Elohim, and the Canaanites may call to the Israelites, and the Israelites may eat of their slaughter, may eat of their sacrifice that they made to their Elohim. One interesting thing about this verse is it doesn't actually provide an explicit prohibition of that. It does not explicitly say that they are not allowed to eat of the sacrifice to their Elohim, but it effectively says it in such a way that it's implying it's something that's just terrible. It's something that you wouldn't even want to risk getting into. It's such a bad thing that it should just be obvious that you wouldn't want to get involved with it. It's just a bad byproduct of cutting a covenant with the Canaanites. However, we could consider that why is it would be expected that they wouldn't be eating something sacrificed to an idol? Maybe it was effectively commanded otherwise. So one thing I want us to think about in regard to sacrifices, consider the Passover sacrifice as an example. Part of the Passover ritual is, of course, the slaughtering of the animal. But that's not the end of the ritual. The animal also has to be consumed, has to be eaten. And that which remains from it must be burned up. So part of the Passover ritual is the eating of the sacrifice. That is part of the sacrifice. And as another example, we can look at Leviticus 19 regarding the peace offerings. "And that you shall slaughter of peace offerings to Yahuwah. To your acceptance you shall slaughter it. In day of your slaughter it shall be eaten, and from tomorrow, and the being reserved unto the third day shall be incinerated in fire. And if, being eaten, it shall be eaten in the third day, it is illegitimate, it shall not be accepted. And one's eating of it, he shall bear his iniquity, that hallowed of Yahuwah he profaned, and that vitality shall be cut from its peoples. In regard to the peace offerings, we see that it must be eaten in accordance with this command. It must be eaten on the first and the second day. It must be eaten completely. If it is not, and it is eaten on the third day, then the whole ritual is invalidated. It says it is made illegitimate. It is not accepted at all. So obviously, just the act of slaughtering the animal in the peace offering is not the end of it. Part of the ritual is the eating of it. And it is so much a part of the ritual that if it is not eaten according to the commands, according to the timing given in the commands, and it is eaten in a different way, then it totally invalidates the sacrifice, and it results in cutting off a serious punishment apart from it. Eating of the sacrifice in many of these sacrificial rituals is part of the ritual. It is part of the sacrifice. Eating of the sacrifice is participating in the sacrifice. Even if the person did not actually slaughter the animal, as we have seen in many sacrifices, slaughtering the animal is only part of it. Eating of the sacrifice is an important completion of that ritual. Performing a sacrificial ritual is a service. It is a service to Elohim. It is a way that we are commanded to serve Him. Participating in a sacrifice and participating in the eating of a sacrifice is part of participating in that service. It's participating in the service of an Elohim. So it doesn't really matter if we think that we have the knowledge. It doesn't really matter if we know that there is only one Elohim and that an idol is nothing. Think about what went on in the golden calf incident. They made the golden calf, of course, being an idol, and Aaron then went on to say that their celebration that they were going to have, he declared a feast to the Elohim of Israel. So obviously it doesn't matter if we know that an idol is nothing. It doesn't matter if we know that there is only one Elohim. Obviously, serious plague resulted from the making of the gold calf. And on top of that, in regard to an idol being nothing, if an idol is really nothing in the Torah, consider Deuteronomy 7:26. It says that even just bringing it into one's house for the sake of the gold and silver on it, even just apart from worship, even if one is just has the idol for the purpose of taking the gold and taking the silver, it says it still brings a curse upon the house. If it's nothing, then why is it an issue at all? Why does it matter? It obviously does matter in the Torah. So for someone to go into an idol's temple and lie down in an idol's temple and to eat of a sacrifice, it seems to me that that would be obviously a problem. It would obviously be participating in the service to an Elohim. That is what eating of a sacrifice is. It is participating in serving an Elohim. It is not something that a Torah observer should be doing, obviously. And it's not something that someone who is supposed to be a Torah teacher should be teaching either. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out some of my other videos on other Torah issues, and be sure that you stay in touch so we can continue this discussion. Thanks for watching. Remember the commands. Shalom.